Hello, Neogenians, and welcome. Today we're talking about the truth about the end times and how it's actually happening right now, but not in the way that you think. We're exploring the Secret Supper, or Interrogatio Johannes, which is a heretical Cathar text found in the archives of the Inquisition that discusses the end times and Judgment Day. And we're going to see how they most likely picked up on a very important fact about existence that we are going through right now. It's going to be really good. This is important stuff to know because it's happening in our lives. So we're about to begin. But before we do, as always, please hit like and subscribe because my channel is about raising consciousness. And the way we do that is by spreading information. That's how one raises consciousness. So when you hit like and subscribe, it tells YouTube to show this to more people. It helps out a lot. I really appreciate it. So take a second to do it right now. Also, my new book, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind, comes out in 1 to 3 days, May 16th. So look forward to that. I'm very excited about that. I'll be streaming that day as well. And then finally, please follow me on Spotify called Dawn of the New Earth. My podcast is called Dawn of the New Earth on Spotify. Again, when you follow me there, it helps spread this information around on other platforms, and I really appreciate it. All right, here we go, my friends. We are talking about the end times, Satan, God. What we're going through today, right now, is we take a look at this heretical Cathar text, Interrogatio Johannes, that discusses Judgment Day. Now, we've been reading this for several weeks, and if you haven't seen those videos, that's okay. You don't need to have seen those videos to understand what we're going to discuss today. But if you want to watch them, I have a whole playlist on the cathars and this particular heretical text that we are reading today. So we're going to get into this idea of the end times, the Judgment Day, and what it really means, what it has to do with what's going on in our lives, in the world right now. Now, before we do, though, I want, for those who may not have seen the other videos, I want to give you a brief recap on what this book is about. So this book, The Secret Supper, or Interrogatio Johannes, is about John, who has a secret supper in heaven with Jesus, and Jesus reveals to him secrets. And these secrets that Jesus reveals to John is basically asking Jesus questions. And some of the things that Jesus reveals is that the God of the Bible is actually Satan. So Jesus Christ describes the war in heaven. The war in heaven, according to Interrogatio Johannes, is initiated by Satan, but Satan is the God of the Bible. So Satan rebels with his angels and creates the world, creates earth. And what he ends up doing is actually trapping angelic souls into human bodies and wiping their memories. So according to the Cathars, we are fallen angels that have been trapped in material bodies. And to transcend the material world, according to the Cathars, we have to realize what we are and deny the physical world, deny material reality. And so we're trapped in this material prison built by Satan. And then Jesus describes how Satan uses different prophets to fool humanity and trick them into thinking that he's God. So the Cathars essentially believed that the Old Testament was written or inspired by Satan. And so basically the Bible is a tool of Satan to trick people into thinking that he is God, when there's really a different God, the true, what they call the Father, who is the Father of Jesus, which is a God of light and creator of all things spiritual. So that's kind of the summary. There's a lot more to it. Check out the playlist. It's really interesting, very interesting stuff. But now we get to the point where John asks Jesus about the end times, about Judgment Day. And this is really important because we're going to be talking about prophecy in general. And so let me tell you something a little bit. So I'm going to bring this up on screen right now. All right, let me bring this up on screen. This is, here we go. This is the text that we're reading today, Interrogatio Johannes, and you can read this for free, by the way, on gnosis.org. Great website, highly recommend it. And so basically what we're going to see here is the Cathars might not have directly understood the specifics of what we're experiencing today, but they were likely tapping into something deep. And what this is going to be, we're going to see is reflected of the rise of a new consciousness, and the conflict that comes with it. And this is all going to make sense in a minute. I'm going to be explaining all this to you. But basically what's happening here, because we have prophecies about the end times in a lot of different religions, a lot of different sects, a lot of different belief systems. You know, you have the modern Christian interpretation of the end times. You have the idea of the age of Aquarius in New Age. And then you have the idea of the Eon of Horus in Thelema, a particular occult doctrine. And so what all of these systems are about, or ideas are about in one way or another, is about the end of one thing and the beginning of another thing. Now, they're all interpreted in different ways. Christianity has a very bleak and dark interpretation of it, whereas Thelema and the New Age have a very positive interpretation of it. But what we're going to see here is that what's basically happening. So, for example, let's think of it like this. When you go to sleep and dream and you have a dream, your dreams are symbolic. So, for example, if you have a dream about a crying child, this might even be a child that you know, could be your brother or, I don't know, a nephew or whatever, right? Let's say you have a dream about a crying child. Most likely, all right, because in your dream, the dream world doesn't communicate literally, it communicates in a symbolic fashion. So let me give you an example. I can't tell you, if you have a dream about a crying child, I can't tell you what that means because everyone interprets their dreams differently. By the way, in one of my new books, I'll be talking about dream interpretation. By the way, it's really interesting and important for integration. You can use that as a tool. Very interesting. But anyway, when you think about, like, say, a child crying, I couldn't tell you what that means for you. However, let me give you an example. A crying child, let's say of your nephew, may mean that you need to give more attention to the childlike aspect of your life. Like you need more play in your life. You need more fun. You need more, you need to nurture the child in you because the child in you is being neglected and this gets manifest as a crying child. All right. So I'm just giving you that as an example of dreams are not literal. Also, when people are prophesying like this, these prophecies are not literal. What these people are doing, and some people who make prophecies are just total BSers and has no bearing in reality or whatsoever, or is just completely off the mark or crazy, whatever. But prophecies that actually have some bearing to them, some merit to them, are those that are tapping into the archetypal pattern of reality. And this comes to people who make these prophecies in a symbolic way because they're connected intuitively and they, record their experience or what they're intuiting, but it's going to come across symbolically. But there's nothing illogical or irrational about prophecy when you understand that it's just about predicting a pattern. So for example, I can make a prophecy right now. I prophesy that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. Now that's likely going to happen. If it doesn't happen, we're all in a lot of trouble. But you can see that there's nothing like woo-woo or crazy about that. I know that the sun is going to rise tomorrow because that is a particular pattern of the solar system that we are a part of. And so like our world and the solar system has certain predictable patterns, reality as a whole has predictable patterns. And so one can prophesy by understanding or just intuiting these patterns. But, we always have to be very, very careful about this kind of thing. And remember, it's not about the specific details. It's about the overall form. But, let's just get into this. And I think you'll start to see what I mean here. Okay. So let's see. Oh, there's a lot here. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully we can get through the whole thing. There's a lot to talk about. So John says, afterwards, I questioned the Lord about the day of judgment. What shall be the sign of thy coming? In reply, he said, when the number of the just shall equal the number of those crowned angels who fell, then shall Satan, raging mightily, be loosed out of his prison. He shall war upon the just, who shall cry out to the Lord their God. So there's a lot to unpack here. So let me just take this bit by bit. So basically what's going on here is that John's saying, hey, what's going to happen? What's going to be the sign of thy coming? So what can we understand? And remember, I want to emphasize here that what I'm going to be doing is archetypally interpreting this. And I have to remind you, this is my interpretation. I'm not saying that this is, for sure, absolutely what the Cathars meant, or even what the Cathars were intuiting. Just like I can't for sure 100%, say what a dream means or something like this. But based on understanding the pattern that reality takes, knowing that pattern, and understanding archetypal imagery, we can make an interpretation. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. So, what's the sign of thy coming? So, what is this? The coming of Christ represents. The coming of Christ represents a new consciousness. This is why in New Age, it's a new consciousness is often called Christ consciousness, and this is why I often say that we are the second coming of Christ. We, as a collective, who are reaching a higher consciousness and helping others reach that higher consciousness, is symbolically, archetypally, the second coming of Christ. So when John is saying, "What shall be the sign of thy coming?" we can understand that as what is this? What is going to occur in the dawn of a new consciousness? And he says, in reply, he says, "When the number of the just." Now let me take a sip of water because I'm parched, because I'm very passionate about this. So Jesus says, "When the number of the just shall equal the number of those crowned angels who fell." So this symbolizes the balance or the tension that we see, all right? Because remember, this relates to what we're going through today. This is the tension that we see between progressively enlightened forces and then the regressive, destructive elements in society. You can see this all going on all around. We are in an apocalypse right now, in that apocalypse means unveiling or revelation. We are going through an unveiling, and this unveiling is leading to a new consciousness. People are starting to realize what we are, where we are, why we're here. They're starting to realize all the injustices that are occurring in the world. They're starting to see all the atrocities that are occurring and say, this is not right. We are one people, we are one humanity, and we need to treat each other with respect and with equality and with equity. And what's happening is that new consciousness that's rising up, what's that doing? That's causing the forces of Satan to rise up. And what that symbolically means is not literal, but it's the backlash against that. It's all the people who want to remain in the past, remain rooted in tradition, remain in the old ways of doing things, remain in a divisive, violent, restrictive society. So we're on a tipping point where positive change is gaining strength to counteract division and negativity. So you can see that this is why when the second coming of Christ, or when the dawn of a new consciousness will happen, when the number of the just shall equal the number of those crowned angels who fell. Basically, it's saying that when a certain level of enlightened individuals begin to come forward, then Satan will be loosed out of his prison. And so when Satan is released, this is symbolizing the unleashing of chaos and hatred and conflict in the world. It represents all the suppressed issues, all the issues that we've had in our collective shadow, things like inequality, injustice, and corruption that are now coming out of the woodworks. And I think you can see this everywhere. You can see this all over the place. Now, do you see what I'm talking about here, about tapping into a certain pattern that reality takes? And we can understand this pattern that reality takes, just like we can understand the stages of growth, like in a plant or a child, an adolescent, young adult faces certain, difficulties in their life that many in that phase face. Well, we as a people are going through a phase of growth, and the reality, collections of minds, souls go through a process that can be understood. And this is a process that occurs that we can understand. And so it says, Satan will be loosed out of his prison. He shall war upon the just, who shall cry out to the Lord their God. And so there's a lot to go here. So forgive me, but I'm going to try and go through them kind of fast because there's a lot. And I really want you to see how this all connects. Okay. So Basically, this is talking about the struggles for those fighting for injustice and equality, right? It's the intense opposition and resistance that movements for social and environmental change are encountering. People who are basically wanting to raise consciousness and do good. And those who are doing that are crying out to the Lord because Satan is waging war against them. And again, you can see this all over the place, how those who are advocating for change, positive change, are having war waged against them, against the repressive, regressive forces of existence, as this dawn of a new consciousness struggles to be born. Forthwith, the Lord God shall command the archangel to sound his trumpet, and the voice of the archangel shall go forth from the heavens and be heard even into the nether regions. Then the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. And there shall be loosed from their foundations the four great winds. The earth, the sea, the mountains, and the hills shall tremble together. Then shall be revealed the sign of the sun, and all the tribes of earth shall mourn. Immediately the heaven shall tremble and be darkened. The sun shall shine until the 9th hour. Then shall the Son of Man be shown forth in his glory, and all the saints and angels with him. They shall place their seats above the clouds, and he shall sit upon his seat of glory, with the 12 apostles upon their 12 seats of glory. The books shall be opened, and all the people of the earth shall be judged. Then shall the faith be proclaimed. Then shall the Son of Man send forth his angels. They shall gather his elect from the heights, even to the uttermost limits of the heavens. They shall bring them gathered into their fold to me above the clouds into the air. Okay, so I know that was a lot, but like I said, there's a lot to get through here, and I want to be able to have enough time to discuss it. So what's going on here? What is this all talking about? How can we interpret this? Well, we can understand the archangel's trumpet like a wake-up call for humanity about trying to get humanity to become aware and take action. And this could symbolize a lot of different things. It could symbolize the very important and prominent figures in the dawn of a new consciousness who are helping humanity raise their consciousness. And that's very important, the Neogenian system. In that context, we all want to be those archangels. We should embody the power of those archangels, being that wake-up call, blaring the trumpet, getting humanity to wake up. Hello, we're all here together right now having this experience. We should be creating a better life, maximizing the quality of life for everyone. And it's ridiculous when what's life about? Life is about having a good life and helping others have a good life too. Not all this war and hatred and division, and people are in a zombie sleepwalking state, and they need those trumpets to blare to wake them out of this state of ineptitude that they are trapped in, the state of ignorance. And so we have a lot of cosmic disturbances here that are talking about like darkening of the sun, unlit moon, falling stars. And what this can represent is, because these are all material structures, this could represent the disruption of existing systems and structures, making way for new ones. Because what's going to happen, right, is the establishment of the kingdom of heaven. And so it's about sort of like making way for the restructuring of the material world. It's basically transformative change. It's the idea that for there to be something new, the old has to fall away. And I have to say, in the Christian religion and the Cathar sect, the view of the end times is very, very, it's very bleak, and it has a lot of, it's very dark, right? But that's not the only way we can interpret it. Like I said, like in the Eon of Horus, or the Age of Aquarius, or the Neogenian, as we understand the new beginning, we have a very positive way of understanding it. Now, we still can be interpretive positive, but there's a lot of negative imagery that goes along with it. And in modern Christianity, this makes people afraid of change. But this is not really what the Cathars meant. The Cathars had a different view of it, but I just want to point that out. So let's see where we're at here. I don't want to make sure that I don't lose my place. We were at sending his angels, and Okay. The book shall be opened and all the peoples of the earth shall be judged. But I think that's a good place where to continue from. But anyway, there's a little more that we need to talk about here. They talk about the release of winds, 4 great winds that cause tremors and disturbances. And again, this can be more allegories for the forces of change affecting every aspect of life. And the earth that is trembling represents the instability of as old paradigms crumble, as old ways of doing things crumble. And this is something else that you can see around us right now. As the old ways of doing things are clearly outdated and falling away, the world is in a very tumultuous state because the old is starting to collapse, but nothing new has been put in place yet. And that's what the idea here is this the old, the crumbling away to make way for new possibilities. Now, people, remember how I said things follow a certain pattern? Well, the evolution of your consciousness follows a similar pattern as well. Because when you get to a certain point in consciousness, before you reach higher consciousness, what do you have to do? And this is one of the main points in my book coming out, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. It's about destroying all of the limiting belief systems, paradigms, and reality tunnels that are blocking and limiting your consciousness. So just like Earth is going through that right now, individuals on the path of raising their awareness go through that internally, where they must destroy all those limiting belief systems. All that crumbles and falls away. And guess what? That often leads to what's known as the dark night of the soul, which is which can be a very difficult time because it's a time where you've gotten rid of your old structures, but you haven't put in the new structure yet. So your mind's like, what the F? Everything I thought I knew was wrong. Everything I've believed is a lie. What is reality? What is existence? What am I? And that can be very, difficult and confusing as your mind no longer has an operating system to operate on and it's grasping to understand existence. And fortunately, we can install a new operating system written by us, by ourselves, rather than, the external world, written by us, that has the capacity to reach higher and higher states of awareness. But anyway, I just wanted to digress by showing you how very often the pattern of existence takes on the pattern of one's own growth. That's what as above, so below means. As above, so below, as within, so without. So let's see. So then we have, it says the Son of Man mourning tribes. Okay. So this could be talking again about the collective grief as humanity begins to realize, like, oh my God, what have we done? All the destructive behaviors. This mourning, that's a possibility, right? As one reaches a new consciousness, this mourning could symbolize, wow, I can't believe I used to do these things or think certain ways that I did. That's terrible. So let's see. Then we have Jesus being shown forth in his glory and all the angels and saints with him and having his seat above the clouds. Again, spiritual awakening and enlightenment. The saints and angels can symbolize all of the positive forces and energies of enlightened individuals guiding humanity to a higher state of being. This is very similar to what we talked about earlier with regard to the archangels sounding trumpets and Jesus being on the throne. That's what symbolized the establishment of a new order, a new just way of being. Jesus Christ on the throne represents the dominance of a new consciousness, right? It's starting to, all the old and darkness is starting to fall away. And a new consciousness is beginning to arise based on wisdom and compassion and, in our system, reason, which is incredibly important. And this represents all of the foundational principles of a new consciousness. Let's see. The book shall be opened and all the people of the earth shall be judged. So the opening of the books can be talking about acknowledgments of truths that were hidden. So let's continue here. Then the Son of Man shall send forth his angels. Did I read this part already? Then the Son of Man shall send forth his angels They shall gather his elect from the heights, even to the uttermost limits of the heavens, and shall bring them gathered into their fold to me above the clouds into the air. So again, this is the symbolization of the unification of those aligned with the principles that we were talking about. Now, for us, this would be things like empathy, higher consciousness, reason, all of the elements that we know are necessary for a new consciousness. It's the coming together of like-minded individuals to make that change on earth, right? This is all about the gathering together to make a change. Then shall the Son of God send forth the evil demons and expel them in his wrath. So do you see how there's a bit of a shift going on? He shall send forth the evil demons and expel them in his wrath, together with all peoples who believe in Satan, who said, let us eat, drink, and lay hold on the things of this world, and let us see what manner of aid they shall have from those things. So this is a very interesting one. This is talking about the expulsion of demons and the combination, condemning the wicked, is symbolizing the rejection of all the harmful and destructive behaviors, all the ideologies that go against unity and self-expression and equality and freedom. It's about rejecting all the ideologies that are against that. It's about the removal of negative influences that are dragging us down. That is what is being discussed here. And so let's see. They shall glorify the just for their sufferings. Wait, there's another point that I wanted to make. Oh yeah, this is very important. Okay. So they shall glorify the just for their sufferings, join with good works. Glory and boundless shall be the reward of those who have cherished the angelic life. So they're also talking about with people who said, let us eat, drink, and lay hold of the things of this world. Let us see what manner of aid they shall have from those things. So he's talking about people who are essentially obsessed with material reality. Basically saying, when the spiritual is what is important, how are material things going to help you? And we can see that a lot right now in, I think a lot of comparisons have been made online of like the Met Gala, where people are just like obsessed with obscene materialism while there's all this suffering going on in the world. And there's that idea of that stuff ultimately is worthless and doesn't matter. Now, there's nothing wrong with having nice things. I want to make that very clear. But the vast disparity of the state of the world in general is what is being discussed. When the world as a collective entity is so blind to its own internal destruction that there's events going on, that just with astronomical amounts of money being poured into it while people are hungry and suffering. It's more about the institutions themselves and the blindness of the world. Like I said, nothing wrong with having nice things, but we want to build a world that maximizes the quality of life for all. And is that what is happening in the world right now? No, that isn't what's happening right now. We have vast inequality. So let's see. Forthwith all peoples shall stand in fear before the judgment throne. The two books shall be opened, and they shall lay bare all peoples with their teachings. They shall glorify the just for their sufferings, joined with good works. Glory and boundless honor shall be the reward of those who have cherished the angelic life, while the portion of the servants of iniquity shall be wrath, fury, distress, and displeasure. And the Son of Man shall separate his just from the company of sinners, and say to them, come ye, blessed of my Father. Possess you the kingdom prepared for you from the foundations of the world. While to the sinful he shall say, depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire, which was prepared for the devil and his angels. Others shall witness the final division, and the wicked shall be turned into hell. By the indulgence of the Father, the unbelieving spirits shall at length withdraw from prison. They shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. So we have a lot of judgments happening here. And, I think from what we've discussed, the implications are fairly obvious. It's about the rise of those who are of a new consciousness and universal enlightenment versus those who are of old divisive ways of doing things and are causing the world to be torn apart. So it's about how we are, attempting to create a new world. And again, I think it's obvious about how you shall inherit the kingdom is that the creation of a new kingdom, a new world, will be born from a new consciousness. Once that new consciousness is born, then a new world will be built and come from that. That's why in the Neogenian system say we want to create a new humanity and a new earth. How? Through a new consciousness. Can't happen any other way. For there to be a new earth, there has to be a new humanity. For there to be a new humanity, there has to be a new consciousness. So first and foremost is raising consciousness. That's what we have to do to create a new earth. Now, this is a really interesting thing. At the end here, it says, by the indulgence of my Father, the unbelieving spirits shall at length withdraw from prison. They shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. So this is really interesting. It's almost talking about the eventual redemption of unbelieving spirits, right? This potential for universal enlightenment for those who even didn't understand and were divisive, coming to a final understanding. In other words, that those who were resistant to change will eventually awaken to a new consciousness. That's why it says, they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd, one people. I don't like the idea of there being a shepherd, but I'm not a Cathar, so that's what the Cathars believed. I don't like that idea, that symbology, but still, the whole idea here is that there shall be one people. And so how can we understand this for what we're going through today? Does that mean everyone today who is, of an old divisive mindset is suddenly at some point going to reach a new consciousness? No, that's not going to happen. So this is something that we would have to think of in terms of more like over generations. As we build a new earth, those minds or zetas who were once divisive will ultimately become enlightened in the future, in a new body, in a new life. Not right away. This is a process that takes a long time. And we can understand that allegorically where it says, they shall withdraw from prison and hear my voice, and there shall be one fold or one people, meaning that they will break free from the confines of a limiting consciousness, reach a higher consciousness, and we will truly have a new world in the Neogenian system, what we call a planetary civilization. Then by permission of my Father, gloomy darkness shall spread over the lower regions of the earth, and a hell of fire shall burn all the land from its lower depths, even unto the air of the firmament. And the Lord shall be supreme in the firmament, even unto the nether regions of the earth. Should a man of 30 years pick up a stone and let it drop, it would scarcely strike the bottom within the space of 3 years. So great is the depth of the pool of fire wherein dwell the sinners. Then Satan shall be bound and all his host, and he shall be cast into the pool of fire. The Son of God with his elect shall walk above the firmament, and he shall shut up the devil, binding him with unbreakable bonds, with sinners weeping, wailing, and crying out, swallow us up, land, hide us within thyself. Then shall the just shine as the sun in the kingdom of their Father, and Jesus shall lead them before the throne of the Father invisible, and shall say to the Father, behold, I and my children, whom God hath given, just Father, the world has not known, but I have known thee in truth, because thou hast sent me. And then the Father will reply to his Son, saying, my beloved Son, sit on my right hand until I make thy enemies thy footstool, thy enemies who have denied me, and said, we are gods, and there is no other God beside us, who killed your prophets and persecuted your just, You shall persecute them in the exterior darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, lots to unpack here. So, a lot of imagery of people burning in hell and sinners being cast into hell and there being hellfire. You'll notice this is very similar to Christianity. Christianity talks about this all the time. People being thrown into hell, all the sinners being thrown into hell. They're weeping and gnashing of teeth. But there's an important difference here. For the Cathars, the sinners are the Christians. So for the Cathars, or, the Catholic Church, and those who are not Cathars, Christians who are not Cathars, are the ones going to hell. That's why he says, those who have said there is no other God besides us, that's talking about the Bible when God says there is no other God but me. I am a jealous God. So basically, according to the Cathars, it is the God of Christianity that's going to be sent to hell, and all those who follow him are going to be sent to hell. So there's a big, quite a big difference here. Again, remember, the Cathars are a Christian sect, and so they use Christian symbology. That is the way that they speak. That is the way that they narratize things. Now, I'm not a fan of all this talk of hell and sending sinners there and weeping and gnashing of teeth, even though they understood it quite differently. I still want to make it clear that this is something that we're reading and seeing, interpreting, but I don't support it. I don't think that like one thing that the Cathars believed is that in order to reach enlightenment, you have to realize what you are. But in order to transcend, you have to deny the material world, like give up all the pleasures of the world, give up marriage, give up intercourse, which is absolutely BS. You don't have to do any of those things to reach enlightenment or reach a higher consciousness. But that's what the Cathars believe. So I want to make it very clear for those who watch my channel, but for those who might be new, I don't support all the things that the Cathars say. I don't support all the things that anyone says. What we do is we look at these things and interpret them and find what's interesting and throw out what's dumb. And there's a lot of very interesting things that the Cathars said. And then there are a lot of things that don't have any relevance to reality either. So this is what we're doing. And let's see. So we have, all of this, weeping and gnashing of teeth. And another thing that I want to emphasize as well is that what's being talked about here is the destruction of all the ignorance, the destruction of all the ignorance and darkness in the world. That's because for the Cathars, the Catholic Church, and though everyone who followed the Christian God were considered servants of Satan and ignorant and darkness. So it's about basically removing all the darkness from the world. Now, again, I don't really agree with the way it's expressed here, and their sentiments, but you can see where they're coming from a very generalized point of view. They're talking about the end of ignorance and the beginning of a new life and a new understanding. And then the Son of God shall sit on the right hand of his Father, and the Father shall command his angels that they minister unto them, the just, and he shall place them into the choir of angels and clothe them in imperishable raiment. And he shall give them crowns never fading and seats unmoving, and God shall be in their midst. They shall no more hunger nor thirst, neither shall the sun fall on them, nor any heat. And God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes, and the Son shall reign with his holy Father, and his reign shall endure forevermore. And yeah, so this is essentially talking about the time where ignorance is completely wiped out, and we are now living in a world where only that which is just and light remains. The Lord being the supreme, being supreme from the highest heavens to the lowest depths, is showing that it reaches everywhere, right? That this higher consciousness pervades all aspects of existence. And let's see. So what we have to really take a look at here, and I want to emphasize, is that, again, when the Cathars are talking about this, right, and the interpretation I'm giving, I'm not necessarily saying that this is what the Cathars believed. The Cathars, believed that they would reach heaven through rejecting the material world and realizing what they are. For them, it wasn't like an allegory for a new consciousness, and they weren't thinking about a new world here on earth because they hated the material world. They thought the material world was satanic. They even thought that being baptized was a satanic ritual because it used water, and water was material. They hated matter. They hated the earth. They hated the world. They looked at it as a prison. So they weren't directly talking about the creation of a new earth. For them, they were talking about transcending the earth and reaching heaven. But the point that I'm trying to get across is that this is all symbolism that can be interpreted archetypally, and the Cathars were likely intuiting what we're going through right now, and through their symbolic language, this is how they expressed it. Just like someone who has a dream and may express the dream literally. So let's say someone has a dream and expresses the dream literally. They write it down. They just write literally what happened in the dream. Then we could look at that dream and go, oh, this person thinks it means this, but clearly this symbolizes that, this symbolizes that. They were tapping into these different things. So my point here is not that the Cathars believed the things that I'm telling you. I don't think that they did. They believed in what they believed. But what I'm saying is that I believe that the Cathars were intuitively tapping into what we are going through right now in the destruction of the old ways of doing things and the potential rise of new ways of doing things, the birth of a new earth. And I also want to be very clear when I talk about what we're going through right now. I'm not saying like this is something that's happening in the span of a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. We don't know how long this is going to take. We also don't know if it's going to be successful. And that's also important because remember, like I said, reality follows certain patterns, but these patterns manifest in different ways. I can say the sun's going to rise tomorrow and I'll probably be true. But is it 100% fact that that will be true? No. Some crazy event could occur. We could get hit by a meteor. I don't know. Some crazy event. We could be swallowed by a black hole. I don't know. But the sun's very likely going to rise tomorrow. But we don't know that with 100% certainty. Likewise, let's say I have a basketball. I can predict, my prophecy is I'm going to make this basket. Well, if I'm an expert basketball player, probably, but I might miss as well. So what's important to understand here is that in the creation of a new world, that is a potential outcome that we have to manifest. It's through our doing that this will occur. There are other scenarios, just like a basketball could miss the hoop, there are other scenarios that could occur. The forces of darkness could win, meaning instead of a planetary civilization, a slave framework would be established, which means that a global elite would rise and form a negative hierarchical structure that benefits the elite at the expense of the many in a slave-like system. And we see humanity moving towards that system with the immense power gained by the billionaire class, and they're beginning to control the flow of communication through owning social media platforms. Elon Musk, who owns X or Twitter, Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Threads. I think there's another one even probably that I'm forgetting. All of these global elites that control the flow of information, and ultimately controlling information is more powerful than controlling things like nuclear weapons. So that's one outcome that we want to avoid. This is not set in stone. That's the thing with these prophecies. It's just about making a probable estimation based on intuitions, based on knowing how reality works, based on a combination thereof, but it's not guaranteed. So one outcome could be a slave framework. Another outcome could be that humanity destroys itself and we have to start from square one again through the effects of, nuclear war or global pandemics or climate change. Who knows? Humanity not coming together to be able to sidestep these cataclysms, these cataclysmic events. That's another option. The option that we are aiming for as Neogenians is to create the Neogenian, to create the new beginning, to create a new humanity and a new earth through a new consciousness. And this is about establishing a planetary civilization that is a teleocratic civilization. Teleocratic coming from the Greek word telos, which means purpose, which is a purposeful world, a world of purpose. What purpose? To maximize the quality of life for everyone, for you and me and everyone. And that should be goddamn obvious, but it's not. People think it's a utopian idea, pie in the sky. No, it should be the most obvious thing in the world. That's what we're here to do. And we can even understand this in the words of Jesus. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is an incredibly important saying. I don't agree with everything Jesus says, but that's a good one. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But this will not happen until we reach a new consciousness and a new awareness. Not happen until humanity at least reaches all awareness. Why? Because if you tell someone do unto others as you would have them do unto you, they go, why? Why should I do that? Now, some people may try and do it a little bit because they feel more morally obligated or because their religion tells them to or something. But ultimately, it's like, why? Why should I do that? Why should I? Why? What if, this will give me some advantage at the expense of another person? Why shouldn't I do that? And that's why we have all the wars and the destruction and the hatred going on in the world. But when you reach all awareness, you realize do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You realize because they are you. Every single person is a reflection of you and us as the absolute experiencing itself. Just like everything in a dream is a reflection of you. In this reality, everything is a reflection of you as us, as the absolute. And we must make that realization, and it's only through that realization that a new earth will actualize. And that's incredibly important. More important than anything else that we could do is raising consciousness, because this is a mental reality. Everything begins as an idea in the mind. Everything around you, every material item, your iPhone, the chair you're sitting on, your bed, began as an idea in someone's mind and then was manifest. If it doesn't begin as an idea, it won't happen. If people think it's impossible, then it will be impossible. If you know that it is possible and can happen, then we can take steps to make it happen. So we must realize that we are those archangels sounding the trumpets. We are the second coming of Christ. There is no savior coming to save us. There is no one but us. We are reality. We are God. And so it's time we establish our kingdom of heaven right here and right now. It's within us and all around us. So just in a nutshell, to just emphasize again, because I think most of you understand this, but there'll be some people who are new that this is a little difficult for them to understand. The Cathars said a certain thing about the end times. I do not believe that this is literally true. Clearly it's not. Obviously it's not. But we can interpret it symbolically and archetypally. Is that what the Cathars believed? No, not really. But just like someone who writes down a dream literally, we could potentially look at that dream and tease out the archetypal symbolism hidden within that dream. So when we understand the end times, we should really look at it as an opportunity to create the new. And that's what it's all about with being Neogenian. Neogenian literally means new beginning. A new beginning for us. A new beginning for me, a new beginning for you, a new beginning for the earth. And we need one. And we have to make sure that this new beginning is one that's about purpose and maximizing quality of life for everyone. And that's so important to remember. This channel is not just about, oh, look at these interesting heretical texts. Look at, oh, aren't these cool historical facts? I do this so that people will help build a new world. And that starts with you. If you're like, well, what do I do? It starts with you. It starts with you understanding yourself and existence better. That's where it begins, because you're part of humanity. We're all part of humanity. So as we raise our consciousness together collectively, this begins to create a new world. So you understand, know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. Begin to, in a very concrete and real way, understand what you are, where you are, and why you are here. And then you'll have the tools to be able to go out there and help others through the creation of art, through the creation of books, through the creation of videos, through the creation of music, through whatever it is that you can embed information that will help humanity raise their consciousness. So the end times, even though it sounds very bleak, we should get away from that bleak understanding of it and think of it as the birth of the new. And that's exactly what we're about. So I hope you like this, my friends. This was The Secret Supper, Interrogatio Johannes. If you haven't seen the other videos in this series, there's a whole playlist. Check them out. Check out my other videos. I want to remind you that I have a podcast. Follow me on Spotify, Dawn of the New Earth. Following me there also helps spread this information around. My new book comes out May 16th. And as always, hey, if you enjoy my work, support over on patreon.com/MorgueOfficial or YouTube here on YouTube by hitting the join button right below this video. We just added a new chat feature to Patreon where you can hang out with me and others and chat and ask questions. It's really cool. And I'm active on there, so check that out. Also, I want to shout out everyone who supports. Big shout out to you guys, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, the Halloween Mom, DB, Nusalina, Eric, Christopher Smith, Joel, Phillips, Luke, Thomas, Ryan, and everyone else. Thank you very much.